welcome to our Octo Smart Talk session. I'm Patrick Allongue, in charge of Central Europe for Octo Telematics, and your moderator. Today's theme is the rise of the smart future, a vast and very topical subject. To discuss it, I have the pleasure to welcome today Alexandre Rispal, who has already led a large career with some of the biggest names in the insurance industry, as well as being a highly recognized entrepreneur in this sector. Since 2019, Alexandre has joined La Parisienne as Chief Revenue Officer. Welcome, Alexandre. And Rito, Vice President International at Octo Telematics, we ran the essential of his career with top player of the market in OEM and mobility part. Welcome, Rito.
Thank you.
The rise of the smart future. What exactly does it mean for us? And what's our world? What will be the impact? And what's the solution will be related to it? There are a lot of topics we will discuss now. Before starting our discussion, what's our Octo definition of Octo Smart Talk? It's imagined by Octo and is a series of webinars designed by Octo Telematics to address issues which are presenting in a wide interest for the global communication, like all the topics that are focusing today, all the people, mobility, smart cities, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, analytics, and big data. Now, and to begin, Alexandre, could you please give us an introduction on the Parisienne and its history?
With pleasure, Patrick. So La Parisienne is a French insurance company. We are a risk carrier. The company is probably the oldest company in France, but what is important? What is really important is that 5 years ago, we saw that through APIs and microservices, there was a huge opportunity to innovate in the insurance industry. And so we decided to become a B2B2C insurance company using tech to provide in less than 10 weeks, which is a huge revolution in the insurance industry, and also using technologies such as blockchain and UBI to provide better services and products to our customers. And so the company grew from 50 million euros GWP to nearly 400 million GWP in just 5 years. And today we have more than 200 partnerships all across Europe. We are right now in 13 European countries. So that's why La Parisienne is an interesting use case in how we can innovate in very competitive landscape. Basically, that's the way.
Okay, thank you, Alexandre.
Thanks.
What's the key message we will cover today? First of all, what's the situation actually? The world has changed dramatically with the smartphone and embedded services associated. Our world is becoming incredibly connected, and even more with the pandemic that everybody is living today. Therefore, it's necessary to think as a connecting organism rather than a product, brilliant ideas that only work with the limited environment for which we was designed. But who are the players? What can be done? What is ready? What will be the future like? That's the key message we have to cover and discuss today. The next generation, some of the answer will be presented now. We met new generation trends with a balance between three main pillars: sharing economy, mobility, and connectivity. Louis, do you think that autonomous vehicle could be the solution in a short future for the new world?
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, Patrick. And I guess that, yeah, autonomous vehicle could be something new because we are explaining this new generation of vehicles since more than 10 years. And we are still working on it. We can see that a lot of progress has been done, like the HALAS, in order to help and to have more security on cars. But what I wanted to say is that for the next generations in terms of trends, the connectivity is already part of our world. I mean, like if we are looking to smartphone, there are a lot improvement done. We have a lot of things now which were not available from the past, but now we can do that easily with smartphone. It's the same thing for the entertainment stuff, and also all topics related to the shopping, to the website. Everything is now more going to telematics, to also internet. And I guess that also with now, due to the COVID, even school is now more and more, we can say, going through everything with the connectivity network and stuff. So, and if we are also talking about automotive aspects, we can see that, for example, leasing companies are also moving and changing the way on how they can address customer, B2B customers, because they are more and more keen to speak about what they call the TCM, so the total cost of mobility, where previously they were more talking about TCO, so total cost of ownership, which means that, in fact, also with the B2B market on the automotive side, everything is changing in terms of habits, in terms of usage. I guess that regarding the autonomous vehicles, OEMs, they are working a lot on this topic, and even if we are not ready yet, this is something that we will move forward because it's really the future. More and more cars are connected, are secured with also all the telematics information. So by saying connected world, in fact, we are already in this transition phase because everything that we have now is really improving in terms of technology. For example, we came with the 3G, 4G, and in the coming month or years, we will also have the 5G. And also all the hardware devices is also improving a lot, but not only on the automotive industry or on the telcos, but also for our life, because we can now see also that we have some devices dedicated for example, for pets, also for children, and why not also to help some senior people. So going forward on this, we can see different trends more linked to the automotive space. So what we can see now is that the new generation is more thinking to have a different usage, meaning that we are not anymore just looking to own a car, but really to use the car. Why not to rent a car or to loan a car? We can also think about to exchange cars. So we had a lot of now mobility solutions, which bring a very large landscape in the usage on the automotive space. Also, with the transformation of all the big cities, they are more now looking to give, in fact, some good quality in terms of lifestyle in countries. So we can see also more and more big cities like in Italy, UK, and why not Belgium, that we have some kind of low emission zone in some cities where you have some tools charged by the cities if you are entering in a certain area. So why not? We can think to have a kind of, we can say, a pay-per-usage in those areas, and not just a kind of forfait in order to have the possibility to go in these towns. Regarding the autonomous vehicle, we can see now that the momentum is decreasing, and maybe it's due to a few experiences that we had in some countries where we have, some accident, but obviously it's not only linked to the technology, it's also linked to how we are using the cars. And regarding these autonomous vehicles, I guess that we have also to question ourselves on how the UBI space could change, because I guess that also the UBI insurance responsibility could change on this point. And also we have some different new development in terms of alternative energies, like the electric vehicles. And for example, we have now more and more people who are using those electric vehicles. But question also linked to the telematics is to see which are the network in terms of charging place. And this also could bring additional value with telematics. Once again, like we said in our slide, the car remains in fact a kind of status symbol for everyone. But I think that also for the mindset of the people, it's also changed, because it's not only linked to the image or the brands or the engine power of the cars, but it's more linked that if you wanted to have a very good car, we can say, you must be connected with your cars. So talking about cars and the habits that we have now, I guess that also we can see that with the different survey, more and more people is keen to have a different usage instead of own a car. So the usage could be, again, renting cars, could be also to have some car sharing, why not carpooling? And I guess that in this space, and maybe it's a question to Alexandre, that as you are a specialist in insurance, this could have a kind of new business model for you as insurers. And I guess that this is something new. Maybe you can share your view on this and see how we can see the future business model of insurance.
Yes, you're perfectly right. It's something that, of course, is impacting the insurance industry. People tend to use things instead of buying them. We can see it for very standard items, for instance, in private life, either phones or tablets. So what we are doing now as a digital insurer is to try to cover people for the use of this item. And so it can be limited in terms of time. It can be on an extended period, depending on the use, but you need to be quite flexible in terms of pricing imagination, the guarantees around it. So that's why we are using a lot what we call parametric insurance or UBI, if it's in the mobility industry, for instance, with e-scooters. And the old-fashioned way to provide insurance with yearly, for instance, coverage is no longer relevant. I will take maybe two short examples, but during the crisis we're in right now, we are still in the crisis. We are covering private hire drivers. It means that for them, it's quite difficult to work right now. So they don't want to pay for a yearly basis. They want to be covered for 1 week, 1 month. So that's something we can provide. Or either they want just to pay for their miles. And the UBI insurance we are thinking about with Octo, for instance, it can definitely be relevant for this target. And on the other hand, if you're going to B2C business, people don't have today the opportunity to buy a full year MTPA with all the options and stuff like that. But maybe if they are going on vacations, they want to be covered for the damages of their cars. But it can be only in a limited amount of time. And that's what UBI can provide them. So on one hand, with the professional, you can in fact provide a better value for the customers through UBI, the amount of time they will need insurance. And on the other hand, for B2C people, you can upgrade them without increasing the cost of the insurance. And that's how we try to see the job we are doing right now in this business.
Okay. So that means the traditional way of insurance is now moving, and you are more thinking about solutions tailor-made, we can say, for B2B customers, but also for B2C customers. And I guess that also with the COVID, it's something that accelerates this kind of change. And I think that it's good to have you as La Parisienne thinking about those kind of new services, because this will be obviously the future if we wanted to serve correctly our final users, in fact.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Thank you very much for that. If we are moving to the next slide, I think that also the public transport is not something right now due to the COVID again. Something will be very sure in terms of security and things like this to people. But what it is key, and I guess that this will come in the coming month, is that the data analytics that we can have from all the different devices or information that we can collect will be something very interesting and kind of added value in order to serve our final drivers. I mean, if you can imagine, for example, that tomorrow we can make some analysis on the data of people, because we know that you are at this point and you want to go to point B, maybe with all these analyses, we can find the right and relevant transportation for you. So I think that all the habits of people are using cars, but also bicycle, motorbike, and why not also public transportation is going to change. And in fact, we are already in because everyone is using services on internet, and everything is already analyzed. I can take a simple example, like if you are going to make a kind of research because you wanted to rent an apartment on the internet, then you will be probably sure that in the coming days you will receive in your email box some advertising to provide you, or some insurance stuff regarding insurance for apartments, or why not also some, we can say, new proposal in terms of apartment to be rented. So I guess that we are already in all those different analyses on data should be really well managed. And of course, with all the compliance on GDPR, because it's key also to protect all the data privacy of each of the users. So we can ask ourselves a kind of question, is that our technology, is it going to fit this? And I guess that if we want to go deeper on the UBI space, I guess that this is a good question that we can talk about right now with Alexandre. And I guess that, Alexandre, I can give you the floor right now to maybe explain more about the different products or things that you can provide as La Parisienne.
Of course, with pleasure. So, as I mentioned it, I won't take too much time, but as you can see, we work a lot in the retail motor and fleet business, also with motorcycles. So clearly UBI for us is something very important. And in terms of business model, La Parisienne is quite specific. We try to build innovative product, and we see ourselves as a way for insurers and final distributors to connect. So we consider ourselves, I would say, as a platform, a white label platform dedicated to PNC innovative product. And so what we are thinking about today with Octo is how we can provide new solutions to traditional players of insurance. So by traditional player, I'm talking about brokers, large brokers in Europe, either in Italy, in France, but also elsewhere in the UK or Germany, and using usage-based insurance entry. So a very quick example at the beginning of the presentation, but to today we can clearly provide innovations for professionals. So it can be for fleet, for ride sharing too. So that's something very important for us because we have seen an increasing demand in that area, and also for traditional customers in the B2C area. So I would say that today UBI should be considered as a means to innovate. And what is important is to have in the value chain a very powerful ecosystem that is providing an innovative and reliable technology. And that's what we are doing together with Octo. And also the ability to translate the final need into a relevant insurance product. And that's what we are doing through our methodology in 12 weeks. During the stage 1, we understand what the business partner wants. In stage 2, we do design thinking session with all this ecosystem and final customers, and we translate it into an insurance product. Stage 3, we design the solution with the technology and the UBI solution. And stage 4, we try to A/B test it in the real life, because that's in the end what matters really. So it's something quite innovative in the insurance space, and we can work in mobility for scooters, for car providers, but it is not limited to this target. With home insurance, it can be also something relevant. And I was mentioning professionals, and of course we can work a lot with professionals to find tailor-made solutions. So the space of innovation is quite large. And what is interesting is to find the relevant use case and then to test and to iterate very rapidly. Because innovation also, sometimes you need to fail and to find the right way to go to the success. So that's why we are very involved in this partnership, and we firmly believe that this way to iterate is key to find the success.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for the explanation, Alexandre. And I guess maybe you already started some, we can say, test or pilot with some of your customers.
Yes, we have started, I was mentioning it in private hire, some tests with UBI. So we are pricing definitely for e-scooters and for drivers based on miles. So it's based on the journey and not on the yearly basis. So that's something very powerful, because when you're renting, for instance, an e-scooter in Paris, then in fact you are insured, and behind the e-scooter provider is covered based on the type of miles that were consumed during the journey. And when you're also providing insurances to drivers in a private hire business model, you need to have something quite flexible, because otherwise you can't operate and your margins disappear. So that's something we are already doing in the field of UBI. And alternatively, in France, we have launched with some brokers, some innovative brokers, the opportunity to provide B2C drivers with a dongle, the opportunity to upgrade their insurance during their vacations, for instance, and they only pay during this limited period of time. But I would say that's only the very beginning of the journey of UBI, and the use case that we can do are very important. And what we want to do together and is to find with our today partners and next partners new ways to innovate, and the flexibility is key at this stage. So for me, these examples are very interesting, but we can go a lot further.
Okay, I think it's Alexandre, I think it's really interesting to have the point of view of an insurance company like you with the InsurTech and strategy vision. Just to have a quick summarize of what was this exchange, we see that the autonomous vehicle, the vehicle ownership, or the multimodal, and of course the centering around the data, because that is the gold mine and the value we have to optimize together, are part of the major change. And what I hear, and that is really, really positive, is you have not at the end of the UBI model that could be potentially, eventually, an option that we could imagine based on the different constraints we have and the GPDR and so on, but more on a new down of the model with innovation, creativity, and a tailor-made approach that will be totally fit with a specific customer expectation. And I think it is a good path that we hear from an insurer to imagine together. What's the next point is that now we arrive with the new tech, because all these capability, all these functionalities, all these services are based on new tech. And I think it's already an interesting paradigm between what we call basically the single connectivity, and on the other side, the industries or the acting world. Because if you see the slides that we will discuss, and that is a slide that we need to comment together, and each with his view, Alexandre on your insurance view, Louis on your mobility, OEM, and fleet view. I think is also interesting to see that today, if we analyze and we are looking the two cloud, we will see an intersection where we can put three pillar points that are fundamental: IoT, big data, and connectivity. We will make the bridge between the single customers and the industries with all the value we can discuss. And I think that will be an interesting discussion now to have together. Alexandre, what's your your reaction based on this slide that is voluntary, really synthetic, and be subject to a lot of discussion?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely a very good summary of what is at stake here. So big data, of course, on an insurance point of view, there are some challenges because usually we tended to have a very structured data in the insurance business. Now the key challenge is to be able to analyze new types of data, maybe sometimes real-time data, unstructured data. So we have clearly new material to have a better understanding of the risk. And that's where connectivity is key, because if you want to have fresh data and be able to tailor-make new products, you need to have a certain level of confidence, and it must be reliable. And I did not explain, I think, very precisely what is for us the link between UBI and parametric, but the key difference, and not the difference, I think it's very in synergy. UBI, with this new data, can help us to develop automatic triggers, and that's what I call by parametric. And these automatic triggers can also improve the customer experience, because you can reimburse people very rapidly. Instead of waiting weeks, they can be reimbursed in 1 day or even less. And that's where there is a key point to the benefit of the customer when you linked all these notions together.
Okay, thanks. I think it's interesting return and vision you share with us, Alexandre. Louis, on your point of view and about mobility, and I say the concept that with the connectivity today, customers can be never alone, and that is also a point that we put and raise a lot of time in the safety strategy we apply with Octo. What's your position on this, and what's your comment based on this?
Yeah, I guess that from Octo side, we have now more and more possibility to retrieve information from the final users. Like we can see on this slide, we can have a lot of information, and I guess that the intersection is something that can be used for all the different B2B companies who are specialized, like La Parisienne in UBI, but also on transportation, why not on mobility solution and so on. And that's why also I guess that it's good to move forward. And for example, Octo is acting more and more on what we call the marketplace. in order to retrieve all the information, in order to trigger some new proposal to specialized company like La Parisienne for UBI, for example. So I guess that we are in a real transformation phase where collecting data is something key because it's the future, of course. We have more and more, we can say, also facilities in order to get those kind of information. The right thing now is to really move forward in order to give the relevant information for each of the different verticals.
Okay, okay. And do you think that the bridge between B2C and B2B is the future that is expecting the consumer today? I ask to all. I think it's important point. This.
Yeah, I guess. Sorry, go ahead.
No, we are clearly positioned in the B2B2C on our side because I think that the link between both are very important. So you can't serve well business partners if you don't understand the final customer. But after that, our position is to be ready in a position to help and to back the B in this family. But we need to understand the C, at least in the design thinking session. So we are always quite connected with the final customer on our side, but we do not intend to go further in this connection.
Okay, I think the more help is very important, Alexandre. I think that is the funding of the connectivity, because we have on a separate way, with a certain distance and immaterial way to connect each other, and the connectivity has the capability to help the industries. If you see the slide, the second part of the slide, you have the industries, the city, the services in general, and I think that is what we call the customer path and the customer experience we can build together, starting by the customer knowledge, because what is the most important is you know your customer. Then his habits or experience, that is the second step we can discuss and that we can manage with our B2B partners and customers. Then move to potentially, as you discuss, an innovation and more tailor-made solution based on the business case that we decide and we define together with the insurer, with the mobility companies, and so on. And finish by a substantial, that is not the least, loyalty and rewarding program, where I think we can thank the customers to help us to be better and live in a better world. What do you think about this? Is it? It could be an. I think for me, it's a future. One of the part of the future.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and I guess that also it's the future of how we can manage and trigger, some information coming from the final users. Loyalty is key, I guess, in this kind of business model.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a good news, because we receive a lot of questions that unfortunately I think is not the time to discuss and to answer, but what I promise you to all the people who hear us is that we will answer quickly to all that we receive actually. The coming up, I think that is also what we can say, how we can, and what's the rise of the smart future. The electric will be definitely one of the focus we have to discuss, and that will be typically the path we want to build through this webinar to move to certain specific topics, starting to a generalization that is today, the goal. The new share mobility will be probably another webinar and meetings that we can propose to you as a vision zero, where we discuss more eco-driving, pollution, and how we can manage also as I said, the perfect vision that is no accidents, no traffic, and no pollution for our city. And that will be also, and all the time, and more build and assume through our future tech. The next session we will have soon, and I invite you to join too, is what we call the Nueva Normalidad that is will be happen today, and also an IoT and big data that will part of the discussion we have today, and that will be probably bring more details, information, and I'm sure interesting testimonial coming from industries and partners and customers. Thanks for your attention. I think it was interactive, interesting, creative, and of course, we have never enough time to discuss these topics because it's really passionate and also very wide in terms of capability we can discuss. I wanted personally and to all the Octo team to thank you, Alexandre, for his participation, and Louis too. And I hope to meet you two soon together for a new webinar. Thank you and have a nice afternoon.
Thank you very much.